Databricks engine is we go ahead and do a lot of handling of resources, pipeline build. Can I ask people to just keep yourself mute for one more minute? I'm answering the question. Yeah. So as a admin, you have a very, very vital role to play because there are a lot of resources that get provisioned as part of the Databricks platform. So you get to see a lot of administration happening in the backend. For example, you have to go ahead and handle, the databases. You need to go ahead and handle the compute resources. You need to go ahead and give the administration to the right set of people handling the permissions. You need to go ahead and give link services to the account. You need to go ahead and handle the Unity catalog. You need to go ahead and give the data storage permissions. So not only at the Databricks part, you have a very, very vital role to play if you're into administration in the Azure portal as well, or in the Azure side, you have a very vital role to play. So you should have good understanding of Azure services as well as the services in Azure. So how I go ahead and treat it as, just see this. I'll make it easier for you. There are two things. What are the two things? In Azure Databricks, if you notice very carefully, there are two companies. What are the two companies? Azure is a company. Azure is providing you what? Compute. Azure is providing you storage. Azure is providing you network. Azure is providing you security. Azure is providing you identity. So most of the things are offered by Azure. Whereas Databricks is providing you a platform where you can run your data warehousing, your SQL operations, your Spark program. Hope that answers your question now. So in either of the choices in Azure and Databricks, you have a very vital role to play. You will make sure that resources are properly configured, properly handled, and security also plays a very vital role. Clear, Lokesh? Now?
Yes, Kumar. I'm good.
So what you do as part of administration in your job, as part of Hadoop, you do the same thing, but now you will shift your module into Databricks.
Okay.
Because Databricks is nothing but, in term, it is Spark that is sitting on top of Hadoop. So if you just if you just go ahead and knock the door of Databricks, if you open Databricks just is nothing but Spark module sitting on top of Hadoop. Hadoop is the entire gameplay. On top of it, Spark is at the tip of the iceberg. All you need to do is how to go ahead and make your Spark, because Spark deals with HDFS, the Hadoop distributed file system, Hive, Metastore. It deals with your MapReduce, Hadoop. So entirely it is the Hadoop that is the gameplay, but it is not that they will go ahead and project that is Hadoop. They project as Spark. Spark is nothing but the Databricks component. So whoever have started Spark, right, those people have only started Databricks. One line I'll add and I'll conclude. So that is, if you go ahead and look at Databricks as a company. Databricks was a company, is an American national company, now enterprise software company founded by the creators of Apache Spark. So Apache Spark is nothing but a module that sits on top of Hadoop. So if you are comfortable with Hadoop, you will become comfortable with Spark. And Databricks is the platform offering from, or Databricks is a company that offers this platform service, Apache Spark. And Azure is a cloud provider on which it runs. It runs on the cloud provider, Azure now. Clear, Lokesh?
Clear. Thank you.
Welcome. Vivek, you have any questions for me? Prasad, do you have any questions? Ram, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, Kumar. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Vivek. I'm coming from a ETL Informatica background. So I wanted to know if so how deep will you cover the Python and Spark? Because I'm familiar with ADF, but I wanted to know like how deep are you going to cover the other parts like Synapse and Databricks?
Thank you very much for this ask. So we have the necessity, the need of using PySpark, Python and Apache Spark programming into our Databricks and Azure Synapse. So what we will do is we will go ahead and consider the modules that are part of Databricks, where we will go ahead and learn how to go ahead and read the data frames, how would you go ahead and deal writing of the data frames, reading the data, loading the data from the data frames into the objects involving CSV files, JSON file, Parquet files, then how to write input and output operations, how to deal with pandas, how to deal with structure. So there are about quite a good number of modules under PySpark we will go ahead and consider involving Python and Spark that will go ahead and integrate with Apache. We will go ahead and integrate with Azure Synapse for our ETL operations, for our data warehousing operations, for our operations that involve serverless and server module and integration with Power BI. So it is going to be end to end. Thereafter, we'll move into Azure Databricks. In Azure Databricks, we will also apply the same logic. We will go ahead and use for our data, for our SQL data warehouse, for our SQL data warehousing. We will go ahead and write pipeline that will go ahead and pull data from sources and will integrate with data lakes for our programming, and also will integrate with Power BI. So it is that we will also cover end to end into the Databricks. So we will go ahead and use Azure Databricks. We will go ahead and integrate with our sources. We will pull the sources. We will write Apache Spark programming. We will go ahead and write data into the data frames, and we'll cover end to end. And also we'll use a very advanced module, which is streaming, structured streaming we will use. So we will be covering end to end in Azure Synapse as well as in Azure Databricks with PySpark programming. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So I'm actually new to Python. So do you recommend us to start learning Python separately, or are you going to cover the basics?
See, I'll tell you, that's easiest way to start is Python, because there are other programs like R, there is Scala, there is R, Scala, and Java. Java, as you are aware, it is already typical for a non-programmer to start with, because you need to understand a lot of classes about it. R is something which is very less used with my skill set. I can say only 10% of the community uses R. The choices are Scala and Python. So instead of just making out of those two choices, there is good chances that you easily can connect with Python. So basic knowledge of Python is sufficient. Then we'll move into Spark programming. So if you want, I can have another session on Python, and from there I can take you into PySpark. So Python can be a separate discussion, and then from there we will go into PySpark. So where we will cover in depth about the programming involving PySpark. So I will have a session for you on Python, then I will take you into PySpark. So that can be taken care. So nothing to worry. Even if you're not a programmer who don't have skill set of Python yet, that can be learned, because Python is easiest language. You don't need to remember any syntax. It's very easy. It's easy to write, and easy to integrate with other programs. So my suggestion, go for Python. Okay. But if you go for Scala, it's little typical, because Scala is only going to use only in Databricks or in Spark. You don't have any weightage above Spark. If you go out of Spark, you cannot use Scala. So the choices of Python you can use anywhere. You can use it in machine learning. You can use it in data engineering. You can use it in your SQL programming. You can use Python everywhere. So that is a suggestion that I have. That is the reason I'm pushing Python to be used rather than using Scala. But where you go for R and Java, forget about them. You cannot even understand their, the design. It is very difficult to understand Java and R. So the choices are Scala and Python. So out of Scala and Python, Scala is native to Spark. So if you use Scala, you'll only remain in Spark. So the choice, that is the reason every person, whoever starts handling machine learning, data engineering, they will become comfortable by writing Python code. And you have to become comfortable with Python code as well. Taken care?
Okay. Yeah. And what about the notebooks, notebook scripting? Like, are you going to cover that?
Without this, there is nothing, because notebooks is essentially the component that we will go down and show you the notebooks